Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the Midrash portion of Reunion Roadmap. And with me today, this is Barry Phillips. Shalom, Barry.
Shalom, David. Good to be with you.
And we're here. We want to talk a little bit about today about an interesting take on some things. We were talking a little bit earlier off air about perception versus reality and how often these two things really don't line up. Let's just kind of put it that way. And the way we see things may not necessarily be wrong, but it may not necessarily be right, but maybe it's just how all these things, there's so many facets to how all this works together. And how do we regain focus when there's so many things that are being established that may or may not be true? We have to go back and learn to realign ourselves with what the word says. And how do we do that? That's kind of a tough way to kind of get moving, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So when we were thinking about that, the first thing I thought of, which we've got hopefully we can make it in their time. We've got at least three really good instances and examples that we want to share with everyone today on perception versus reality. And we've recently been reading through the Torah, and we had a parsha that was Shalach. It's Numbers 13, and where the spies were sent into the land. I don't like using that word spies, but for lack of a better word, let's use the word spies. And they were sent into the land, and they were supposed to gather information and bring back the fruit and to do all this. And you guys know the story, okay? You've read it. They went as 12 being sent on a mission, and they came back 10 against 2, split. And so what caused the division? What caused the divide? I mean, they saw the same things. They ate the same fruit. I mean, I don't believe there was manna in the land. Once they got in the land, they partook of the land. So it's kind of to me, taste and see that the Lord is good. And here's the promise. Now taste it and see. It's right in front of you. It's good stuff. And so they go in, they taste the fruit of the land. They see all these things, and it's amazing. And instead of doing what they were supposed to do, saying, report on the people, then show us the fruit, which would have been, there's these giants, there's these dudes that are like really bad, but look how great this fruit is. Look how great the land is. And God said, it's ours. Yay, let's go get it. But they kind of did that in reverse order. Yeah, here's the fruit, but man, these guys, so what's the difference there? And I think that's where we get into reality versus perception. They both saw the same things. But the problem was not what they saw. The problem was how they perceived what they saw. And I'm going to take it another step further and see what you think about this, Barry. It's not just what they perceived, but I'm going to kind of change that word a little bit, how they interpreted what they saw.
Right.
And that, I think, is where we can get into some problems, because the word is the only constant truth that we have. The problems we get into is how we interpret that word. And Barry, you were saying something earlier about the interpretation process, about how we tend to interpret things by and through what?
Our past experiences, our cultural leanings, our biases, dare I say our prejudices, maybe, whatever our paradigm is, our perspective. Sometimes we have, whether we would admit it or not, some folks still have some racial prejudices, and that's a problem. We'll talk about that in a little while. There are group prejudices. I'm going to be careful how to say this. Some of us are old enough that when we read of the perceived interpreted antics and responses of the millennial generation, we see them as being a spoiled group that's afraid to endure or persevere, and they've got to have coloring books and Play-Doh to get through a crisis. So what are we doing? We are interpreting that generation through the background experience of our generation or that of our parents. And it's just perspective. Now, I'm not justifying or condemning the millennial generation on either side. I'm just saying that that's a perspective that we older adults have, and we judge other generations through that particular filter that we have.
Now, I agree, and I think that's what the spies did when they went into the land. They were not necessarily encouraged being in the wilderness the amount of time they had been there, and so when they went in, they went in with a kind of a defeated mentality already. And I find it really cool how this comes about, and we'll kind of hit this and move on to the next instance, is that Numbers chapters 15, we are given something that we are supposed to see as a reminder: do not follow the way you think about things. Literally, it says that you don't follow your eyes, that you go whoring after your own desires.
Right.
But it's that, so we, which you guys know, if you know, I'm talking about the CTO that you wear on your garments, and the idea of this is you still have a choice. You can choose to, when you see that, it to be a reminder that, you know what, the way I feel about something doesn't really matter. And that's huge in today's society because, it's, well, the way I see it, that's the way it is. And not necessarily. It's the way he sees it. It's the way Yah sees it. And we need to be able to step back and say, okay, this is the way I see it, but Yah said this. And so how do we respond to that? So we do have a choice in everything that we do. We have a choice to see what the Father is desiring for us to see and realize we may not have it all answered and figured out, or we have a choice to say maybe things are bigger than the way I see it, and the choice to not see it at all and continue in our own heart and desires and wander in the wilderness a little longer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about that? So it's amazing that when we read through the Torah narratives, I don't remember seeing anywhere where Yah asked Moshe what he thought. Moshe, tell me how you feel about this. Moshe, will you counsel me on my intention to do this?
He tried it at the burning bush, didn't he, Moses? Oh, but who am I? That didn't work, did it?
Well, and the rabbis say that he argued for 3 days. Or 30 days, I think it is. I think they say he argued for 30 days.
Wow.
No, said someone else, please. Moshe had the same problem that Israel ended up having. They failed to see themselves in the way that Yah did.
Ooh.
Yah looks at us and he sees a certain character, a certain potential, a certain ability that's innate that we have never seen come to the surface. He cries out to Gideon, who's threshing wheat in a wine press. That's not where you thresh wheat. But he was doing it to hide it from the eyes of their adversaries.
That's right. That's right.
And the messenger says, "Hey, you mighty man of valor." And Gideon's looking around. Who, me? Are you kidding? Me? But Yah saw in him what he didn't see in himself. And he saw in David what his family didn't recognize in him. So these tourists, that when they went into the land, they didn't see who they were. All they saw was who the giants were. And that was their perspective problem.
Barry, I think that brings about a very good point that leads into something you had mentioned earlier from the book of Acts.
In the book of Acts, we have this Jewish congregation that has developed. They've received the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh. They are seeing thousands of fellow members of the house of Yehuda coming and accepting Messiah Yeshua. And they are joyfully walking together. They are enduring some persecution, but they're overcoming. And then these goyim show up. And they're wanting to come in and sit in their synagogues. And they don't know the liturgy. And they don't know how to wear the tallit. They don't have a tallit. What are we going to do? I mean, they're not us. Who let them in? And it became a problem. They never, to a certain point, they had not thought of the nations receiving this. Their perspective was, this is a Jewish thing. And Yah was trying to show them, no, my perspective is not your interpretation. My perspective is a restoration of the nations, not just you. And so they had to determine what are not our, but what are Yah's scriptural protocols for the Goim to come and listen to the teachings about Moshe and the commands and learn with us. Um, Kiva had had his own situation where he was taken to the house of Cornelius under protest.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
says,
That's
but
a good one.
Yah's changed my perspective and shown me that I should not call unclean what he's called clean.
And he was talking
And
about people, not food, by the way.
isn't that interesting? And he recognized that. When the Ruach HaKodesh was poured out on Goim believers, the question was, well, was to forbid them then from being immersed or mikvahd in water in the name of Messiah Yeshua and becoming a part of us. This is out of our hands, out of our control, and beyond our narrow-mindedness. Of course, that doesn't have any application for us today. That was all then.
No, that's not the way I see it, Barry. No, I'm kidding. Which kind of takes us along the lines into that last point. We've got just a little over 3 minutes, and let's hit that last point real quick, Barry. We talk about a woman who approached Yeshua, and those around Yeshua didn't really care for that.
Well, I think it's in Matthew 15, if I'm not mistaken. And the Syrophoenician woman comes in, has a daughter that's vexed. And this woman is desperate. Yeshua insults her, calls her a dog. You're a goim dog, to which his Talmudim or his disciples would have agreed. Yes, get that woman out of here. She's bothering us. Who let her in here anyway? She's not with us. She's not of us. She doesn't have a covenant with you. She's outside the covenants, of course, what Ephesians chapter 2 would have described. And Yeshua insulted the woman. But she was desperate enough for her daughter to be delivered that she took the personal insult and still believed. Now, was Yeshua pushing her buttons or his Talmudim's buttons? Yes. He challenged their perspective. And, of course, he provoked this woman to a great level of belief, and her daughter was delivered. But Yeshua taught his Talmudim something important, of the women in Scripture that believe, a lot of them were from foreign places. The widow took care of Eliyahu. She was a Sidonian. She wasn't of the stock of Israel. So maybe we need to change our understanding, David, and realize that Yah is going to include people and do things a way that's going to be offensive to us, and we need to get over it because it's not our perspective or preferences that are in question here. It's his.
That's I think is an important key there. The Father is going to do things His way, not ours, and how we handle that, how we approach that, can drastically have an effect in our life. I think that's a good place to look at, because that's where we get into that perception versus reality danger. And when we say what is reality, well, reality is His word. Our perception is how we perceive that word, which is again where we sometimes go astray or sometimes go off. Because what happens when our perception doesn't meet up with what the word is saying? Well, who's wrong? Who's off? Well, it's not the Father. It's us. And so when we see situations in front of us, like you just said in the book of Acts, and like you said with the lady who came to Yeshua, we don't look at a person and say, well, they're this or they're that or they're the other thing, if we're not willing to look at them through the Father's eyes and to meet them where they're at. If they're coming to Him, it doesn't matter where they're from. What matters is the heart of the Father in the midst of us all, and working together in that.
So someone's going to come into our congregations and they're not going to pronounce things the right way in our perspective. They're not going to follow our protocols and our liturgy exactly right. But if He's accepting them, we do too.
The heart of the Father is to gather His people. And if our hearts are to be more towards gathering than scattering, I think that's where we have a little more patience with one another and a
Mm,
little more forgiving with one another
indeed.
and willing to work kindly toward one another. So, any final thought, Barry?
Well, it looks like we run smack out of time here. So I was just going to say, if you have questions or comments, you can send them to Remnant Reunion Roadmap at benayjosefna.com.